Joanne Brackus, happily filling in for Aaron Rand. And we're talking salaries. We're talking particularly increase in salary. And the big question is how much could your salary potentially go up in 2026? Now, there is some good news on the horizon. Even though it's been decreasing steadily for the past few years, it's about to potentially get a little jump. In what sectors? Is this across the board? Manon Poirier, who is the executive director of the Quebec Order of Certified Human Resource Advisors, is joining us now. Manon, thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. Good afternoon.
So let's paint the picture of what has been going on up to this point, right? Because there was a marked decrease. There was a decline, it seems, in the past few years. So paint the picture of where we were at before.
Yes, for the past few years, so year 4 today, we have increases up over 3%. So we were at 4.1 3 years ago on average, but that was a high number. And so it's been decreasing over the past year, but it's much higher than what we've known before 2021. We had like 10, 12 years of 2.5, 2.6% on average. So it's the fourth year. It was 4.1, 3.7. It's going slightly down, but I would say we were a bit surprised to see that the forecast the average increase for next year is 3.2%. We really thought we would go back to levels below the 3% mark where we used to be for so many years because of the economic right now. But it's 3.2, so it's kind of a good news for many people.
What do you think explains that? Because you were predicting that we would be below the 3 mark, and now
Yes.
Expected is 3.2. What are the factors you think going in play here?
I think even if we've heard the unemployment rate is going a bit higher, that we've seen reports of younger people having a hard time to find a job. Overall, there's still some challenges for employers to fill some position in specialized profession, namely. And I think employers wanted to remain a bit safe and make sure they were still competitive in a market that. So you need to attract people, you need to keep people, and I think employers realized that for the past year, inflation was high. So all of us had to absorb an increased cost of living, and so they want to make sure they can help their employees to make sure they have the same kind of buying power.
Let's
but
talk.
I would.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, but I think next year, although that's what we thought for this year, we're going to go below the 3% mark because it is hard for organizations to maintain such high salary increases. It's never enough for us, but I think for organization, it's hard to sustain that kind of increases.
You talked about cost of living, right? We're in a cost of living crisis. Many sectors, many people, especially young people, are feeling the pinch. They're saying, we can't afford groceries. We can't forget buying a house. Rent becomes more difficult. Sure. What do we know about where the increase, or do we know where the increase should be if we're looking at inflation, if we're looking at cost of living crisis? You're saying it's likely to be 3.2%. Do we know if that's enough?
Yeah, with the data that we have, if we only look at the past year and the numbers we have now, it would be enough to make sure. So average salary increase will be higher than inflation rate. But obviously, in the past year, it was so high. So even if it's, back to 2%, around 2%, which is normal for inflation, it's 2% on top of the 7% and the 5% and the 4% that we had. So we understand that the cost of living is higher, but if we only look at data right now, it will be sufficient to cover the increase of this year.
Let's talk about sectors now, because people hearing this could be really excited. 3.2, that's the predicted hike in salaries. Is this across the board? Is it sector to sector? What do we know?
So yes, there's a variation between sectors, but not a great one. There's 1% difference between the lowest expected average increase and the highest one. So it's a tighter. Sometimes we see gaps that are much bigger. So the highest sectors which will have 3.8% on average increases. Wow. Yeah, we find technology. We often find them there on top of the. Always in the highest numbers. We also find agriculture, which is usually not what we see. So 3.8%, and the lowest increases will be around the sector of healthcare.
Okay, let's talk about that because this is interesting, and this is coming out in your studies here. The lower wage hikes will be predicted to be in health and social assistance, which as a society does not sound great. What do we know about why that is? Is it the government's simply saying we don't have it to give it? What do we know?
Yeah, of course, there's the biggest employer in Quebec in healthcare is obviously the province. So it depends always on the collective agreement, the collective bargaining agreement happens. In the past year and a half, we did see higher salary increases on average in these collective bargaining and in the past 18 months. But they are usually, the lowest increase. But it's gotten better. But it's I guess it's the capacity to pay or some political decision, obviously. But I understand from your perspective, we see how great the needs are in that sector. So hopefully, salaries continue to support these important professionals.
But they're on target for being at the lower end of the increase from what you're finding there. Yeah.
Yeah, on average, obviously. So it's an average, so 2.8%. Yes.
Wow. So unemployment now in young people, right? Let's talk about what we know about young people, where they're working, and how much they're expected to look at in increases. Are they going to be somewhere in the middle? Are they going to be at the higher end? What do we know for the younger people?
Yeah, they're usually a lot of their work. If we're talking at the younger people, part-time job. They're usually working in retail, so it's not where we will see the biggest increase. We actually saw less available position in that retail industry, so there's less position available. It explains why some of the younger people had such a hard time to find a job recently. Which is not new. Usually when there's uncertainty or recession, it's usually the first group that suffers from unemployment. And we've seen a lot of investment also in the past years from organization in technology, replacing some of the unqualified, work that some of the younger ones, working part-time, they can do. So it also explains why the unemployment rate is so high on their hand. I don't have specific numbers for the youth, but it's per sectors are numbers. So the retail sector is just a bit below average.
It was below average. So again, you're predicting 3.2% hike in salaries at the higher end of things. Manon Poirier, again, Executive Director of the Quebec Order of Certified Human Resources Advisors, on a look ahead at what's to come for your salaries. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.